So thank you so much, Melly, and obviously you guys at home now know how to get involved with us here in the studio. But back to the games and back to the action. What a brilliant way to kick off this playday, and what a phenomenal result for the Leprechauns. A little bit of luck was clearly on their side. I'll stop rinsing that little pun there in the end. It's not even a pun, it's a terrible joke. But let's have a look at the schedule today and see what else we've got coming up for you guys at home. So, first game did go the rather lucky Leprechauns way there, picking up the victory over EPS 2-1. And now following that will be eSuba up against TCM. So I think it's been a little bit of a shock to the system of some of the old dogs having to really play that hard game against some of these newcomers. And what are your thoughts towards the second game now?
I think eSuba needs to step up. They really didn't show us a good game against Evil Panda Squad yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm really looking for them to prove that they are worthy of being in the Wargaming League. They did certainly against Spala when they beat them out in the relegation matches. That's obviously the team they won against to be here, and they were pretty fantastic against them. Whether they can beat TCM, who looked pretty good yesterday, I must admit. They looked
solid.
They looked solid. They looked like they had integrated Still Mojo and Eurofish, the team captains of Spala and Kazna Crew, quite well into their lineup. But I wasn't all too impressed. I think they had a few issues, a few communication issues that they needed to solve. Maybe they've fixed them, and we'll have a few good games against this eSuba.
Yeah, so let's actually head over and look at those lineups and see what we'll be coming up against. Obviously, TCM there with Magus, whose birthday is today. So hopefully he can get a little bit of a good victory under his belt, considering it's his ever so special day. I think he's like, what, 20 now, 21, pretty young guy,
I think
handsome.
20, 23, 24.
Yeah, he's close enough. But anyway, TCM, who should we be looking out for? And eSuba, the same question.
So we'll start from left to right. It'll be eSuba. For me, I think the best player was probably Fluky. I was quite impressed with him. Birgit also comes to mind. Mirror Stenley wasn't too impressed with him, I must say. And Los Coscos, same with him. It's always a bit of a tricky one, though, when you're playing at this high level. Sometimes you do well, sometimes you do badly. It's just the nature of the game. And TCM Gaming, maybe Magus and his birthday charms will help him through this one. Maybe eSuba will gift him with a win. It'll be a great way to start his birthday with a win. So I would be looking out for Yukai, Still Mojo, and Eurofish for them, but we're going to have to wait and see.
So yeah, who are those big aimers from eSuba we should be looking out for?
Mirage and Stenley, I do believe. They've got 100% accuracy on their worldoftanks.eu accounts.
It's pretty impressive stuff, so let's hope that does transfer into today's games. Not too bad on all other fronts, but need to obviously step up the other side of things, but still a newer team to the league, so we'll have to see how that one comes down, and we'll have to see with the next lineup coming up and the next stats coming up for TCM, and what is their main strength over on the TCM side?
I think their decision making's always been on point. They've got a lot of brains in their lineup. They've got a lot of impressive thinking players and who got good tactical analysis. I mean, obviously Mangas was joined us on the analysis desk, joined Clutch, Still Mojo, Wilkie and the lot and Melly on the analysis desk, and he did a very good job of breaking down the games. And you have those kind of players there, Eurofish and obviously Still Mojo, all team captains from previous teams. They'll be able to give their input well as well. And also, Yukai, he's a Unicum player and he's extremely proficient in his heavy tanks, also T69. So, look out for them. I think generally a really solid set of players, and as I said yesterday, I think TCM have got the best season coming for them. I think they're going to beat their top four result, which they achieved in DreamHack in the first season finals.
Yeah, and I want to get your thoughts on having multiple in-game leaders on one team, because that's a new kind of big factor to this one. Is that before they had, maybe one or two who'd maybe take charge. Magus overall obviously is a big factor towards that team as well. Very experienced head on those shoulders. But now in-game they have a lot of vocal players who can kind of start with their input. Do you think they might start taking maybe if you look back towards Lemming Train guys at home, they did use a similar style where they had several in-game leaders, but under the kind of umbrella of Elian making the calls. Losing Elian, that's changed. But do you think they could maybe adapt to something similar to that?
I think it depends on the personalities of the players more than anything else. How strong is Still Mojo as a personality in game? How much noise does he make? That goes for the same as Ruster and Eurofish. But I think if you're Still Mojo and you're Eurofish, the reason maybe why you left your teams in the first place is that you just didn't want the responsibility of being a team captain anymore. You just want to play the game you love and the game you're really, really good at. So maybe they just joined the team, TCM, picked up by that sponsor and wanting to just perform well in their various tanks and leave the team leading up to Ruster, who is really the designated team captain for TCM Gaming. So generally, I think maybe that's going to be an issue. But the nice thing for them is at least when there is an issue with Ruster, they'll have 2 backup team leaders, maybe even 3 backup leaders in that team.
Yeah, you get a lot of different insight and a lot of different perspectives, which you could really kind of lend towards them in the later part of this season. That's what I'm looking out for here. I think initially I'm not too sure, and then we'll have to wait and see. But we can talk through the first map now, which will be Ensk. What sort of tank choices have we seen? Any surprises, or is this the normal Ensk?
It's the normal Ensk, triple 5100, double IS3, double T1 for both TCM Gaming and also eSuba Intel.
And your prediction on this map, and overall, obviously?
I'm going to go for TCM on this one.
Overall?
I think I'm going to go for TCM. I think it's going to be a 3-1, maybe a 3-0.
Okay, I think I'll join you on that. Maybe a 2-1. I think overall, I'm hoping we see a little more from eSuba than yesterday. I think we see a little bit more life in them. That'd be brilliant. But I think we're just about ready to get underway. And guys, Melly already told you how to get involved, but make sure you go over towards Facebook and Twitter, get your votes through. Obviously, tweet through to us with your predictions, and that's exactly what I want to hear from you guys. You can see it right down below. They're nice and simple. No two ways about it. And I think there might be some goodies even on the line if you do go over there and get those predictions through. So nothing wrong with some goodies on the line there. So obviously, guys, we are now ready to get into Ensk. So, first battle coming up, eSuba up against TCM. 2 classic organizations going head-to-head. And Ensk will be that first map in the north in red. It will be TCM in the south in blue. eSuba, what are we seeing from the very start here?
So TCM, unlike we see most teams doing, are starting to put some of their big resources, the 5100s, over towards the left side, over towards that green side, whilst eSuba also putting most of their tanks over there, although TCM are not going to commit quite as much as eSuba has. They have sent pretty much 90% of their tanks, maybe even 100% now. Still Mojo trying to land a shot on the cross, does hit Twixo. He's down to 969, so straight away TCM Gaming right in that driver's seat, and eSuba losing so much HP. Twixo's down to 969, and the 5100 has 1400 HP, so that was a big old shot by Still Mojo.
Yeah, new addition, certainly looking great within the lineup there. Probably very pleased to pick him up with work like that coming through. So Twixo now has to play a bit more of a passive role in this game. He can't be so upfront and personal with these guys, but you do have obviously the IS3s within that lineup to kind of do the more close range work a little earlier. So Stenley there, a little bit further forward. Fluky as well, leading up the charge, getting a little bit closer to the action overall. But as a start, is there much to read into these beginnings? Because at the moment it seems this is what we normally see happening.
Yeah, this is pretty standard, although as I said, TCM aren't going for the normal kind of city push which you see on the northern side of Ensk. The only real difference is that, well, it's so far worked out for them because of Still Mojo's great shot, blind shot across the map and hitting that last target. It's a bit of a strange one. In terms of their position, you can see YNZ has got limited amount of cover where he is. The only thing he really has is line of sight and firepower. But Thoris is there in support in the IS3. Eurofish up towards the left in his 5100, and Dur is there as well in his 5100. And you can kind of see TCM starting to edge forward, almost like they're playing a southern tactic, but instead from the north. Might be a tricky one, but also might work out, and they are trying to get the flank. Thoris is trying to desperately get into the action, and Birgit, and both these teams just going for blow, not doing any damage, but at least having a good crack.
Yeah, Fluky early on did spot out, I think it was Eurofish actually, let the shell fly, but full force of TCM to come rolling down at center of the map. They've got a good couple of players in position to be able to deal with this, but who's going to come out on top here? The more aggressive team or the setup team who are waiting for this one?
Well, still Mojo has managed to sneak his way through without getting spotted, so that's going to be very, very crucial. He's got to make sure that the 5100s of eSuba don't collapse onto him as he goes through this one. You guys maybe going to act as a kind of a barrier, or maybe even go for that cap, but I think a barrier is probably the best idea. Though still Mojo going to creep around a little bit, but generally TCM playing very aggressively. eSuba on the back foot. So Mojo does have a good shot there, doesn't manage to connect that one, but he's not even spotted, so it doesn't make any difference. GJ Red Deep getting on the distraction, does get spotted in that tier 1. It'll be about 10 seconds till he can go unspotted. But that's a tier 1 both of these two teams have lost, and eSuba looks like they're hanging on, but TCM still have to get that execution. They still have to get those mathematics right. Otherwise, despite all their good work so far, it's going to go down the drain.
Yeah, and eSuba are hunkering down towards this area. Literally all of their tanks covering each other off to the best of their abilities. Los Coscos did go out on a limb then. He did receive a bit of damage, so has to be a bit more careful now on these peaks and these pushes because they know they are now cornered in. TCM, I feel, has such an advantage by being a little bit more aggressive early on. And I'm not sure if I'm too sold by eSuba just sitting here waiting for this to fall down towards them because they could really be in trouble. Eurofish does show up on the horizon, but in the meantime, all the others are moving around. Still Mojo catching Los Coscos out on surprise here. Yukai will be joining him very shortly, and Los Coscos is on a bit of a limb here. He doesn't have the support of the other side with him, and actually, they've got a bit of a base race beginning in this one.
Yeah, and still Mojo did such a good job against Twixo. He was in the perfect position, and at the moment, eSuba is just falling into all the traps that TCM is laying, and still Mojo is on reload, so Stenley might be able to hit a shot onto him, bounces him. Still Mojo doesn't make the same mistake, connecting that shell. 389 damage off eSuba there, but eSuba now starting to go on the rotate. They have to try and catch out YZNE. I said these guys are on the limb, but whether they can really take them down before Still Mojo and Dirk can get around the corner, I'm not sure.
Well, Birgit's low, Los Coscos and Fluky. Fluky's trying to go for the peak here, and it's not paying off perfectly. Thoris and YZNE finally take a little bit back, but Eurofish moving in as well. Keep him in mind. Twixo's in trouble. One more shell, and he's out of there. Eurofish does the job, and more casualties of war coming in for eSuba. This is going terribly for them. TCM's execution is looking good. Fluky moving forward. It's just him and Stanley now. Fluky is surrounded. Stanley nowhere to be found. Still Mojo dealing with him. Fluky surely gonna fall. Stanley is left on a whisker of health, and now Stanley is all they have to depend on, as Gambo can do nothing but die in the tier 1. And this looks like TCM moving in with some certainty and really decimating eSuba, who just took no risks, took no advantage. And right now, Eurofish and Still Mojo with the final shot coming out. TCM looking great from the very offset there.
That was classical TCM gaming there, really just creating those traps and waiting for the other team to fall for them, and they fell for every single one of them, and you kind of feel sorry for eSuba in that situation because they didn't even have time. TCM were on the aggression straight away. Once they had the initial bit of information, the initial start, they creeped up those IS-3s, Thoris going first, trying to get some damage, try and get some pressure on. That caused eSuba to kind of change positions a little bit. We saw, I believe it was Twixo in the 5100 took so much damage.
Oh, initially from Still Mojo.
From Still Mojo, he's down to 269, and then Eurofish was ready and waiting to hit any tanks that tried to rotate, tried to get into good position. So he was down to 369 HP, and then Durr and Still Mojo did such a good job around the corner. And just managed to deal the final killing blows, and really it was just a matter of just sweeping up from there on.
I've got to say for me as well, Still Mojo, man of the match then, from the very offset to the way that he was the linchpin to begin. I loved his play. He didn't go overly in aggressively at the start. He got the shot on Twixo. They started the push. He was the man, the spear point almost at the very front of the charge, but he never overly committed. He played safely, but he got so much damage done as well, well over 2k in that one. For a new addition to a lineup, looking like he's fitting in very well there. So definitely looking forward to what he can kind of maybe bring throughout this game, and if he can keep that kind of composure going forward, we might have a little new superstar coming up, because as you said, when you're an in-game leader, your mind is everywhere but your own game sometimes. I had the same trouble back in the games I used to play, that sometimes you can barely focus on your own game because you're trying to be so aware of everything else going on around you. You're worried about all the other positions falling into place that your game does suffer. But now he's had a little bit more of a free roam to this. he could be an upcoming player to definitely keep your eyes on as a damage dealer and as a man to really engage in these battles. But, obviously just very early days for these guys. And, I don't think eSuba really made much of a move then. I was a little bit lackluster almost. But then again, pretty dire start with Twixo being taken so low from the very offset.
Yeah, it wasn't a great start for them, that blind shot from Stillmojo. And again, that was a superb shot. And, a lot of practice, a lot of training, and a lot of insight does give you that option. So, it's not like a luck thing. It's more of just a training thing.
Yep.
But as you said, eSuba not with a great start, and TCM not giving them any room to breathe, really keeping that stranglehold around their necks. And whether they can, go forwards from this point onwards, whether they can actually kind of get up and make sure that they don't make those same mistakes on the next map, I'm not sure they can. Yesterday they didn't impress us at all.
Yeah.
Today they're looking like much of the same, and TCM Gaming are looking a lot stronger than they've ever been, as I've mentioned before. And I just can't see them. Losing more than one map. I think maybe 1-1 is possible, 2-1 is possible, but I just don't see TCM losing this one unless something goes disastrously wrong and they all start shouting at each other or.
You never know. It might happen. It's a possibility, but I think I'm with you on this one. We've seen every other kind of new addition to this league showing a little bit of promise, whether it be what we saw from C-Play with the phenomenal strat on Mines, and then today we've already seen one of the newcomers really looking brilliant in the Leprechauns, already taking down a very notable opponent. And now I want to see the same from eSuba. I want to see them challenging, but TCM is a very solid team. They've gone from strength to strength now, adding these a couple new players who are phenomenal. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they can bring throughout this league. But now, to me, eSuba, you've got to step up. You've got to show us a little bit more here, guys. Come on, because every other team's shown us a little bit of a glimmer of promise somewhere, whether it be on the fast aggression, from the first day where we saw free fall, and I also believe the Leprechaun showed a lot of aggression, not so much control. And the second time we've now witnessed at least one of those two teams, we saw the control element, we saw the tactics, we saw the in-game leading coming into effect. I want to see eSuba showing us something here that kind of makes us go, there's hope there, there's potential for them to really start pushing, and I'm waiting to see it actually happen. But obviously very early days for these teams. And the next map being Cliff, is this one they might be able to surprise us on, or do you think this might be a done deal for TCM?
We haven't really seen TCM on this map before. I think it's going to be a tricky one for them. Yeah, they've played it a few times, and so far I've been fairly impressed with them. All in all, good gameplay, but eSuba might have some tactic for this and might have a good way of playing it. As I said, you can't let 2-0... Once you're 2-0 down, the likelihood of you coming back from that is quite low.
Now, looking at the tank lineups, I'm seeing IS3s in here on Cliff. Is that something we're used to seeing?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure, but listen, TCM say they're ready, so they're
yeah,
running
they are
with
indeed.
it.
Yeah.
Where on earth will you put an IS3 on a map like Cliff?
So Stillmojo is going to be running that IS3 as his Thoris. The team captain is going to be running an IS3. Sorry, yeah, it's not Rusta, it's Thoris. I always get that mixed up. But yeah, sorry if I got, it's I always say Rust, the team captain of TCM, because he was at one point the captain of TCM, but it's not, it's Thoris.
Okay,
so if anyone calls me out on that, I'm sorry, I got it wrong.
You're not allowed to make mistakes ever.
I know what I mean, but it's just, wrong. But the AMX 5100, and that's going to be picked up for eSuba. So all in all, pretty strange set of tanks for these two. At the end of the day, and I think those IS3s, they're going to have to be a little bit more hull down, a little bit more defensive.
Well, we can only wait and see, because Cliff is coming up next. So, second map on the way between eSuba and TCM. Currently, TCM with one map in the bag. eSuba, Need to show us a little more here, guys. So Cliff is what's coming up in the north in red. It will be TCM, eSuba in the south in blue. And let's see those tanks in action that I'm just not sold by. Those IS-3s on this map from the north. I don't know, but Laughter, where are we seeing those being put towards?
So it looks like they're not going to go down below like maybe I thought they would do. Instead, heading up towards the hill a little further, and maybe going to be joining Yukai and on the base of the hill. Thoris is also going to be joining. The IS-3 is not the slowest tank in the world. It's got a decent amount of horsepower per ton ratio, but the cross-country ability is just not that good, and that's where it's going to struggle. And obviously, eSuba's going to be in the right position at the right time, but they haven't really got the tanks to deal the damage. I think Twixo, perhaps the only tank on eSuba that is really capable of dealing with the firepower and the armor and the survivability of that IS-3. But for eSuba overall, they're going for the lower road. Stenny's gone forwards, Mirage and Fluky over towards the right side. They have that breathing room at the beginning of the game because TCM picked those IS-3s, and Eurofish actually really not going for the early spot, not really caring what eSuba does at the beginning, and not going to be supporting his team for a little while. And only Yukai and Durr are going to be in the right position to try and stop anything that comes from eSuba, but they aren't going to be in that really the standard places on this map. And I think for eSuba, it's going to be a little bit hard for them to get themselves out of that situation, especially YZNE doing such a great job in that tier 1, just spotting out, making sure that he's in the right place at the right time, stopping any push that comes along from eSuba along the low road. And honestly, you know, when he's in that tank, all he needs to do is shoot, get spotted, so he knows that there is a tank in let's say 200 meters of him, and then retreat again. So far so good. I think TCM are in the right positions. Whether they can execute, I'm not sure, and I think those IS-3s have to prove themselves a hell of a lot to really be worth taking on this map.
Yeah, very, very strange stuff, and if you do wonder who will be championing those in the IS-3s, it will be Thoris and Still Mojo. So the team captain being in one of them, Still Mojo, one of the very big players from last game, is going to be picking that one up. And we are seeing Fluky on the rotate a little bit here. He's going to be heading back a little while. Obviously in the 1390, it's been a bit of speed to that thing. He can easily get across here. So I'm not sold by eSuba's strategy here. It's okay, but to me, it's all about that execution now from TCM. Can they find them out? Can they spot them out and work out where they are? I'm sure they've got a good idea here, but you know, what is the late game plan from eSuba now in these sort of positions?
I'm not sure. I mean, this is really not a tactic we've seen a whole lot of because of the way this maps works. You really, unless you're playing random battles, you really don't want the low ground, and only in really random battles do you want the low ground when you're going for a quick push, or you have a tank that's simply too slow to go up towards a cliff. And eSuba have willingly put themselves in that position, so maybe they're going to have a tactic for it. It is a little hard to deal with those tanks below because of gun depression issues, and certainly TCM don't have that in their favor with the IS-3s and the MX 1390. The only ones which really can do that is Yukai, and he's sitting in a T69, and you know, it's not enough damage just in that tank to deal the blow. But at the moment, it's DJ Red Deep going to be making the plays for TCM, going forwards, trying to spot out anything from eSuba. But Slavisk and Fluky and those two tier 1s are ready and waiting.
Yeah, and I'm not sure of either of these strats really. TCM playing very commonly, which is absolutely fine, but eSuba having to wait to see what their later game plan is to this. They are catching a good glimpse of all of the opposition now. They've got 3 tanks lighting up them. Yukai letting a couple of shells fly. Stenley has now moved up to join maybe more of a engaging position, trying to possibly find Durs or anyone up on that lighthouse side, see where they've gotten off to. And this might allow a little bit more movement for the rest of eSuba to try and get to a better position from here, but I'm not sold by this.
Still Mojo and Thoris though are starting to creep around this corner. Oskos Birgit just below them, and Stenley's going to first one to receive the absolute pain death damage from that BL9. 736 HP, and he just get tracked, receives another shell there. 939 HP, but this is the eSuba's chance to try and do some damage, try and get some of that HP off the IS-3s.
Well, Stenley took a big chunk, as you said, down to 411. Mirage got a shell back, but still Mojo still on almost 1.2k HP. I'm thinking this game's almost TCM's from the offset if they go for this push here. Los Coscos is way down below. He didn't even get involved in that. Birgit, obviously a tier 1, trying to keep eyes on the push, but the rest of the side was not really in a position to help him out much. And Stenley, out on a limb, now has to back away. One of the big guns in the game for eSuba is now so desperately damaged that it's down really to those 1390s, and maybe that 5100 plays such an important factor. But, you know, not really in a position we can see much coming out from these guys. I'm a little bit worried about what they can do here and what really their options lay in.
So what TCM needs to do, at least, is to try and take those two tier 1s down, Fluky and Slavistas. Get rid of them, first of all, so you can claim the whole top half of that map. And then deal with eSuba. And for eSuba, their options are becoming less and less by the second. What I really think their only plan right now is to try and just fend off anything that comes from TCM Gaming. But even if they do fend off the push, TCM will just have a tier 1 on the opposite side of the map, and they will be able to draw this one out at the end of the day. So really, eSuba's cards are either, you know, draw or lose, and that's kind of a boat they've put themselves into, and they've really just sailed themselves down that river, because TCM are going to start rotating around, and you know, as the seconds do tick down, it becomes less and less for eSuba to win and more TCM to push.
Yeah, and that tier 1 of Birgit is in trouble. He's been just taken down, so they've lost complete vision that they really had round towards here. Los Coscos, in reaction, having to back up now on that T69. We already saw what happened to Stenley, so he doesn't really want to follow suit, and this will give a little bit more control over towards the opposing side, who can really start hammering home the fact that they're just cornering in the opponents here.
Yukai is actually going forwards with Still Mojo, and you with Eurofish there, with Thoris even, so they're going to go for the push here. This is going to be the engage.
Well, Yukai is on the verge of leaping down here, actually, so interested to see if he goes for this one. He has got backup now coming through as well. Mirage is the only one really on the same platform here to get any damage done initially, or maybe try and thwart the attack coming in from TCM. But here we go. A little bit of cover comes in. Finally got some fire coming out from Mirage as well there. Takes a little bit of damage away from Yukai. That's a little bit of work, but not a great deal. I'm still not seeing much from eSuba, even though finally TCM are moving towards them. Mirage isn't the one doing the work this time. I believe that is Fluky from afar, landing these shots back to back against Yukai. So Yukai is out on his own now. He's got to be careful. Yukai could go down here. He's down to 390. I don't think he can stay out in this position too long, and he's trying to maybe bait out Mirage a little bit, try and open up the possibilities. Stenley also not too far away now. Every single member of eSuba desperately not trying to, you know, break that kind of discipline they're having here. But this could go really wrong for these guys if they're not careful.
Yeah, and Dur's going to engage on Fluky, knowing that Fluky's used most of his shells. I think all 6 of his shells. He's done a lot of damage to Yukai, so that's a good thing. Slavistas is going to get spotted out, but he's going to get taken down by DJ Red Deep, so that's not a problem at all. And he is going to engage, but Fluky scampering his way down there, and at the moment, TCM struggling to find their way into this game. Mirage to take a fistful of damage, has to retreat back, and, well, 1 minute and 51 seconds left on the clock. Can TCM do this?
They certainly could, but they need to get these shots landing. Mirage receives another one from Durs, knowing that Fluky can't cover him off anymore. Mirage has to back away. Now down the foot of the hill, eSuba is struggling. Mirage tracks himself pretty much. Fluky does manage to slide away a little bit smoother than the others, but look at the HP right now. Mirage is low, Stenley is low, Twixo also very low. Only Los Coscos and Fluky really sitting anywhere they'd want to be at, and credit to CCM. Not lost a single member so far. The IS3s are paying off, and Twixo, he's in trouble here. I'm worried for eSuba. They could get wiped out if they're not careful.
If I was TCM, I would just push down with Still Mojo and Thoris onto eSuba. I mean, like, how much damage can eSuba really do against these IS3s with those little pea shooters? Not very much, and I think that is the plan from TCM.
Let's find out if it's going to work here, because, well, there are still a couple of members around, Los Coscos being one of them, who can do the damage. We're going to have to wait to see if they fully execute. Twixo might be in trouble very, very soon. It's going to be Los Coscos up first to receive a lot of damage. He's the man with all the HP here. Still Mojo and Thoris moving around. Los Coscos backing away, trying to get to safety, but there's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Is TCM making their move? Can they make it stip? 35 seconds left. They've got to get these kills and fast. Finally take down Los Coscos. Fluky is in trouble. He's got DJ Deep. Durs focusing him down. 2 men stand. 26 seconds. Still Mojo now. Only the one standing in that IS3. Thoris got taken down. Still Mojo moving in towards Stenley. Twixo on his own. 18 seconds. Can they do this fast enough? They do have the ammo, but can they land these shots? Twixo trying to back away. Stenley is low. One more shell will do the job, but he's He's not going down without a fight. Credit to him. He's actually thwarted the attack. But in the meantime, his teammate did get taken down 4 seconds. Can Euroffish find the shot fast enough? 1 second left. He stays alive with the last second remaining. And it will be a draw all in all. TCM just not fast enough on the push down from the hill.
Oh, that was poor. I hate that so much. 10 HP left on the side of Stanley there. That was so unlucky from TCM Gaming. They were that close. I think Durr he just couldn't get the last shell out. He didn't. He was on the reload in that AMX 1390, so that was down to an absolute whisker. And that could have really bring up the score to 2-0, and one more second on the clock and it would have been TCM's victory. Very lucky there for eSuba. Really coming up with no plan, and credit to them, they managed to hang on for quite a long time. I think some bad decisions from TCM didn't help them at all, and yeah, that was just overall a poor performance from both teams in my opinion.
I tend to agree with
TCM should have pushed down earlier on with the IS-3s. Those IS-3s just didn't go down. We can actually have a look. I think
in the end Thoris went down, but that was it.
One of them went down.
Yeah.
After taking so much damage, and then they used all the shells trying to kill the IS-3s. They had no real firepower going forwards then, so that would have allowed the rest of TCM's tanks to get themselves into this game.
Yeah, and to TCM, I look at them and they're probably trying to take this one. They're trying not to underestimate their opponent, I feel.
Yeah.
They're trying to take them as seriously within the aspect as they can, but there's a difference between caution and far too much, nervous and cautious play. You've got to make the decision to move in, and they did the damage early enough. They worked down and worked out exactly where eSuba were, but they didn't push in, and maybe that hesitation could come back and bite them in the end. But, as we saw, eSuba just fell apart in pieces. I'm once again still not impressed by them. No real moves being made, and steps will be coming up next. What can we expect from these guys? Do you think there's anything else coming out from them?
I've always been the most impressed by eSuba on steps, so I think if we're going to see any kind of miracle working or any good tactics coming out from eSuba, it will be on this one. So I'm hoping for that. But touching on something you said, it does end up. It's a game about karma in some respects, because remember yesterday Yukai was left on similar amount of HP, and he managed to live in similar circumstances.
Yeah,
so
true.
It really is like
swings and roundabouts. It comes back around.
I imagine TCM are screaming on TeamSpeak like, "Oh my God, guys, come on!" But then yesterday they did draw the game out in the same situation. So it swings and roundabouts, karma, whatever you want to call it. It does happen occasionally, but I think for eSuba on this map, they used to pick the 5 AMX 1390s lineup. That was their favorite. Whether they're going to do it this time, I believe Twixos picked the 5100 and Mirage had picked the 1390, but that might have just been from the previous games. They might not actually be picking up the tanks they want to take here.
Well, the tank selection time will begin. Obviously, 2 blind picks from both sides. They don't do this back and forth like they used to. It is, pre-prepared. Lineups are given into the admin before the game begins. So no cheating, no dirty cheats. It's all above board. But as you said, normally 1390s with eSuba doesn't seem to be the case this time.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they really want to pick that one up. I think this is going to be more T69s and Pershings. I'm really looking for that T32 if they want to be picking that one or not. I'm not so sure, maybe. Although Fluky from eSuba is going to be picking that one. So far, eSuba like their heavy lineups. But then again, so is TCM. Remember on Ruinberg yesterday, TCM picked the 2 IS3s there as well and managed to make it work very well. So credit to them. Not sure if they're going to be doing that on this map so far, but we have got the eSuba's lineup locked in here. It's going to be the triple AMX 1390, T32, T69, double T1. So something more standard for them at least. Just a bit of a combination between the AMX 1390s, get that speed, that firepower, T32 for the mainstay, and the T69 for the burst damage.
Yeah, and I think we are finally seeing TCMs coming in there as well. And who do you prefer here, lineup-wise?
Just waiting for Still Mojo.
So it could be very similar, to be fair.
He says he's gone to the toilet, so I think it's going to be very similar. Triple AMX 1390, double T69 for them. The only difference between these two is the T32 being switched Sharud for the T69. For TCM, they got the extra T69. eSuba have got the T32. I imagine Still Mojo I imagine he's going to be picking something a little bit heavier. If I want Steel Merge or anything, I want him in either the 5100 or an IS-3 or a T-32 or a Tier 1, since they've already got 5 Tier 8 tanks and I can't count. Yeah. So yeah, 3 MX-1390, double T69, double T1. Yeah, they are indeed. So yeah, I think TCM's lineup is the most standard one you'll ever see on Steps.
Well, let's get our eyes set towards that video. Steps is next. So, third map coming up, eSuba up against TCM. So far, it's been desperately led by TCM here, but maybe there's going to be a little bit of a difference. eSuba might suddenly remember how to play some tanks here and stop struggling to make that impact. It will be Steps as our third map. TCM will be in the south in red and in the north in blue. It'll be eSuba. So, what are we seeing so far here?
So, eSuba are heading over towards the trench side. As we'd expect from the north, they got the T-32, so I think they're not going to be moving from the trench too far. Eurofish just spot out Los Coscos. Twixo tried to land that shell, doesn't manage to do so, so Eurofish will be managed to get away from that one. Yukai and TCM, generally what we'd expect from the south, heading over towards that left side with most of their tanks. They got that double T69, remember, so they have to make sure that they stay reasonably close to those AMX 1390s. They want that combination, but TCM looking pretty aggressive, and Yukai looking pretty confident as he does cross that middle open area, and in hot pursuit by Thoris in the T1. The only ones really staying back are still Mojo in the Tier 1 and Eurofish in the AMX 1390.
Well, and that slight spot towards Yukai there might have actually mustered the eSuba guys into a little bit more of a move towards the cover in the end, trying to get down the defilade of the hill towards that east side of the map and play a little bit safer. Let's see if it pays off, as they are starting to head up, but not really gaining ground, just more repositioning, I feel, here. And 1390 towards front. You can see the shots coming through, and this is quite an aggressive TCM side, and we saw some brilliant cap play coming out from TCM previously, and I'd be very interested to see if they're willing to try it out on a map like this that's certainly not known for its cap pressure, but neither was Prokhorovka, and that's where they really surprised me. We're looking to see if they can pull off something pretty incredible now, but they would be against the odds. The likes of Fluky and Los Coscos, etc., joined by Twixo, just peering up and over the crest of the hill, can certainly do damage if they decide to engage there or commit. So, nice little blind shot there from Fluky coming out. Does manage to find Durs in the end. I think they actually spotted him, and maybe Birgit there actually doing the work, but still, not a bad start for eSuba. They've done a bit of damage, they've got a little bit of information, and they've got a good bit of ground gained, but still Mojo has been spotted up as well, so obviously he's keeping tabs on the opponents. A couple of shots coming across, none actually hidden. There we go, finally do land, and that's the Tier 1 also removed from TCM. So actually eSuba doing alright here, but I feel as though they may be in trouble if not careful. They have also got a glimpse of Thoros, so good bit of information coming across towards eSuba, but is that maybe TCM being a little bit aggressive rather than eSuba doing good work?
It's not like eSuba is really doing anything apart from turning their turrets towards where TCM is spotting. I mean, good work by eSuba's Tier 1s for sure, getting their spots out, and TCM being a little bit lackluster in terms of their peeking ability. Durr just not having that foresight to make sure he doesn't peek around when he doesn't need to. So if this does just get spotted out there, this could be a bit of damage onto them.
Yeah, that Tier 1 could be in trouble. Salvistus will be removed. So 1-for-1 trade pretty much so far in Tier 1s at least. And the Tier 1s are still very important on this map. You don't want to be just giving them away. Eurofish did get spotted out as well. So Twixo and Mirage moving up to more of a southern position. Maybe those T69s and 1390s trying to look across, land a couple of blind shots. But still, at present, they're currently drawing eSuba away from where the vast amount of presence of TCM is. Only Fluky, Birgit, and Los Coscos staying back in the right sort of area. So they have managed to split up eSuba here. This could work out in actually TCM's favor.
Yeah, this is looking okay for TCM, but Eurofish is not in the best position in the world. He's got to be careful. He's unspotted now, so at least he's got the tree down in front of him, so he's going to go unspotted. Obviously, the top of the tree does end up as a bush, so that's always very good to see. Eurofish's track does get hit. That was a blind shot coming out from Twixo. Twixo immediately gets punished though, so both these teams now losing a little bit of HP on those tier 8 tanks. 5 minutes and 40 seconds left. TCM now reacting to eSuba's push as eSuba's probe, so this could be the start of something for them, but it's looking like a pretty slow game from at least eSuba. Mirage now going forward, so spotting, and Eurofish being the back. And Mirage does receive a chunk full of damage there, down 500 HP.
Yeah, a little bit of a bait play with Eurofish in that position, toying him and teasing them to peer forward and try and land those shots. Mirage has not had much luck with this so far. He's been receiving a lot of damage at the moment, having to back away again. I do feel a little bad for him, but once again falling into the traps of TCM. But with 5 minutes left, I'm not sure if there's enough really to go for a big engagement here. It's a map with such vast rotating ability that it could be a dangerous play if they went for it. And I don't know, Stenley staying out on a limb, only tank here. He does have support from the others, but if he does get surrounded and caught out, he could be in trouble. But we'll have to see if they actually do make a move. You can see those shells coming through. Eurofish again, not leaving this position yet, but very hard to make those shots without coming over the crest of that hill and displaying your entire tank to the opponents.
Yeah, you really don't want to be doing that, and I think the options for TCM right now are trying. If I was them, I would really go for that tier 1, so eSuba can't cap, and then look for a way into eSuba's push. And the obvious place for that tier 1 to be is on the rotate for eSuba, be on the other side of the map, trying to keep that other flank open, trying to keep the other flank closed, even making sure that TCM aren't going around, aren't flanking, aren't coming from behind. And I think for them, tier 1 out and then find a way in. For eSuba, it's more about probing. They need to use that T32 to the best of its ability, because at the moment it's the AMX 3090s who are making the plays, who are trying to get themselves into the best position. And now we see a bit of an aggression from eSuba.
A little bit, but it's all literally to try and find Eurofish. Twixo's received damage, as did Mirage. Twixo receives another shell. Eurofish is this big, literally a golden carrot that everyone's trying to get, but it's actually not going too well for the eSuba side. They're constantly peeking against him with no information really of where the others are. I think Yukai occasionally appearing on their maps, but yeah, I'm not sold by this play. It's a little indicative of them being a little bit lackluster in the fact that they don't have any initial plan of their own, and they're just taking shot after shot, and these shells are landing, and actually Twixo going down. This is sloppy stuff from eSuba.
So what TCM needs to do is reload, needs to get Eurofish reloaded. Zanichta is already reloaded. YNZNE is also reloaded, so it needs those 3 MX-3090s, and they need to be pushing across as soon as they can, because they still have to deal with Fluky in the T32, which is going to be the biggest problem for them. Still with 1,550 HP, still with that brilliant player behind him, and he's going to be able to stay alive for at least, I would say, 30 seconds, so it's now or never for TCM Gaming.
Well, they are forcing eSuba back. eSuba have fallen all the way back to their own cap point. I don't think we're going to see much more from them in that factor. They tried to make the shots count. It really did not work for them. And now it's can they avoid the shells from TCM? Pretty much. TCM obviously moving up, probably to try and make the most of the advantage they have. Mirage being low, Twixo being taken out. Stenley also receiving some damage. And now Thoris getting those spots through. Really going to add insult to injury. Birgit there, probably keeping eyes on. But we are seeing Thoris being taken down. But 2 minutes, I'm not sure it's enough really for these guys. No,
TCM are now playing the game of cat and mouse against eSuba. It's whoever can really connect first, and eSuba are going to try and go around, and Fluky, they still have to deal with him. Mounts his first shell, that's the 244 penetration from the 105mm on that T32, but I imagine TCM are at least going to take down this T32.
Well, Fluky, excuse me, is now surrounded by a hell of a lot of tanks. He can only do limited amounts, and you can see 4 tanks moving in for the kill. He's just been mowed down, and surprisingly enough, Stenley, Los Coscos, and Mirage all moving out here and actually challenging. This is dangerous. Birgit has to play carefully. He has to split out on his own and try and be away from the others. Stenley receives some damage. 1 minute 12 seconds left. I'm not sure why they moved out of position for this. Stenley could be taken down here. He is on the move, but the others have stopped. Land the shells. Los Koskos gets away. Birgit trying to play safe, trying to play the smart game of moving out of this situation, but Mirage is already low, but 56 seconds, is that enough time?
It's going to be very, very close, and at the moment that tier 1 of Birgit has actually managed to avoid TCM's tier 1s, and they are going to be able to cap. You can see there's 27 seconds left on that, but they still have to deal with Mirage and Los Koskos.
Well, let's see if Mirage and Los Koskos can do anything. They're moving away. Eurofish playing smart, spotting out both. The Mirage is low. Eurofish could take him down, and the more time they buy, the closer that clock's going to get. This is perfect play from TCM. Eurofish is doing brilliant work. Birgit now goes down to the other side of the map. He can do nothing, as Los Koskos must stop this cap. He must land a shell. He does it just in the nick of time, but still the clock is so close. 10 seconds. I think TCM have done this.
They've done this. They've so done this. 3 seconds left on that clock, and I think that third tank in attack in the cap is gonna take them across that borderline and bring the score to 2-0.
So well played from TCM then right at the end. I can't believe it. And who was the player who split off on their own?
That was Eurofish.
Eurofish, what a damn brilliant bit of play. Knowing where they'd heard down to, knowing where they're trying to escape to, and knowing, okay, well, the plan is they're going to go and try and cap this one out. There's only a couple of seconds left. If he had not have bought that time, that could have gone the complete other way then.
That could have gone disastrously. One more shot from Fluky there, not Fluky,
Los Koskos, I
Los
believe.
Koskos in the MX3090 would have reset the cap enough. But again, you know, eSuba playing this very risky game of going for the time, and at that point, it just wasn't good enough. You know, 3 or 4 tanks in the cap, that brings it down to like 30 seconds, 25 seconds, sit them all in there, and then you put the pressure on the other team. That was good play. That was good decision making for
Very
TCM
much
Gaming.
so.
Eurofish probably had a good idea that the Birgit's tier 1 would be in the middle, but instead went for the cross, stopped completely in their tracks the MX3090s that wanted to go in and try and reset TCM Gaming. So all in all, very clever play from TCM, and bringing the 2-0 up and definitely making up for the mistakes they made in that previous map clip.
Very, very impressed. The late game plan then was perfectly executed at the I'm absolutely stunned with how well they pulled that off then. And I doubted having that many team leaders in one game, but you know, clearly the calls are on point here from TCM. I wasn't too stunned by them before, certainly moments of brilliance, but today I think this is doing a little better on their front, certainly showing a little bit more action. And another map coming up that I feel TCM could do very well on, Winter Himmelsdorf.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, because I was impressed on Ensk. I think Himmelsdorf is played a lot differently than Ensk. Yeah, it's a city map,
Definitely.
but it's a kind of different bag of tricks at the end of the day, and yeah, it's going to be hard for them. I think they have to be aggressive. TCM usually, historically, have been pretty passive on this map. Their signature move was really that push off the hill and the tier 1 cap at the same time, coming from 2 angles. Doesn't work so much anymore. That meta's changed, and teams have just come up with a good counter strategy to that. But looking at it, I have to be looking up to YZNE, because him and his MX3090 in the previous game, amazing. I mean, that guy's been sitting in a tier 1 for today and yesterday, comes out on steps, shows us how it's done. So really, really good stuff from him. Not sure if he's going to be playing. I think he's probably going to be playing a tier 1. I think his preferred tanks of choice are those fast little scout tanks like your MX3090s.
Yeah, certainly able to scamp away, but the tank choices will be now coming in. I don't feel we'll be seeing the 5100 stack coming out from either team on this. Then again, eSuba, no, there we go. They're bringing out the IS3s as well. So I think it should be a well-rounded lineup from both of these two. But let's bear in mind, if TCM pick this one up, this could be game over, and this is certainly a deserved victory for those guys. Mojo looking brilliant so far. Every single player definitely stepping up in this aspect. I'm looking forward to them on this map. Himmelsdorf, to me, always really displays good teams. When teams can play this very well, I think it's a good overall picture of how well they'll do, because you can't just do all-in strategies that work out every time. It's a very well-rounded map, very symmetrical, very delicate as well towards balance, and it takes a lot of insight to play it well. So I'm hoping we see something along those lines here. So we're now moments away from being ready here. Final prediction, who's going to pick this one up?
I think TCM are going to bring it to 3-0.
I have that funny feeling as well. Definitely looking at players like Eurofish, Thoris, especially still Mojo now. He's had a good start to the game. Last time he had the IS-3 on Ensk, did some real damage. Wasn't so sold on Cliff, but we'll have to see their thoughts on that a little later on. Why maybe they went for those IS-3s, we'll have to ask the question. But if he can repeat a similar performance with such perfect play and poise, eSuba could be in trouble. Then again, there's been moments of brilliance. You know, Twixo, I think, has been doing okay in those heavier tanks. I think maybe a little bit of work could be added towards it. Fluky as well, not too bad either, but just being overshadowed by TCM's play. But right now, eSuba need to find something, because at the moment, they are struggling, and it could be all over on this map, which is going to be Winter Himmelsdorf. So, possibly the final map here between TCM and eSuba. TCM, 2 maps up to the good here. eSuba yet to really make a dent in the TCM side. And, well, in the north, it's the team who has everything to do, eSuba. They must pull themselves together here and bring something out that's pretty damn impressive. And TCM in the south in red, really leading the way. What is the initial start from TCM this time?
It's TCM heading up towards the hill with DJ Red Deep, YNZ, Yukai, Thoris, and Zernichter. Pretty much all just going for the standard lineup, standard start. Still Mojo just take a big load of damage there. 1-1-0-7 less than his IS-3, so that's probably from a 50-100. That's definitely for an IS-3 there. 400 damage done to him, so he's got to be a little bit careful. Almost a repeat of what he did on Ensk, but this time just being the receiver instead of the giver. That's never a good thing. You never want to receive damage at the beginning. And Designicta is just trying to peek up over. And Tier 1's got to go first. DJ Red Deep has been playing that Tier 1 very well. He's going to not meet anything apart from, I believe, it's the Vistas up on that hill for eSuba.
Yeah, he is up there indeed. Only the one Tier 1. Twixo not even really joining him either. So it's a bit of a one-sided affair if they did go for the push onto that one. But as you said, still Mojo, a little bit of vengeance. I think it was Stenley actually in that IS-3 towards the middle of the map, landing that shot for to avenge Twixo, who really did sadly get a bad beginning to Ensk before. So this time around, eSuba mostly focusing, it looks like, towards maybe the towards the 8-line area, mustering themselves up together. Fluky, Stenley, and co. all around that side. Mirage there too, and actually Slovista has moved up, so he will be looking at DJ Redeep here. But I'm not sure if he'll expect the vast amount of tanks down the foot of that hill, which really could cause some trouble if anyone else pushes up, and I don't think they are. I think they're trying to be smart about this, eSuba. I think they're not going to fully commit here, and I think that's the right move.
Yeah, but just looking at Suba's general tank positioning, they've got a lot of tanks over towards the 8-line. Yukai does get punished, not knowing that he got spotted out, and definitely a bad move there for TCM. Definitely a bad situation now, going from a pretty normal start for them just in disaster in a matter of seconds. You know, you want those Tier 1s alive, you need those Tier 1s alive to go for the cap, and TCM have been good at capping so far, so that option is almost off the cards, and DJ Red Deep can't go down, and he's peeking actually, so that's always a dangerous move for him. But there's nothing to really engage, nothing to really go for eSuba up on the hill, and they are looking towards the 8-line, but now rotating around. You can see Mirage there on the 50-100. Heading up towards the 1-2-3 line, and maybe this is going to be the first inklings of a move from eSuba. A lot of teams have been looking at that 1-2-3 line. I think it's a better place to push from the north. You've got a lot more stepped places, and you've got Birgit up on the right, who's gone forwards. He's spotted out, he's found Still Mojo, and he's found Eurofish.
Let's see if they can do anything about this. We already know that Still Mojo did receive some damage. They're splitting across the map. 3 down the 2 line, 2 down the 5 line. Still the exchange on the hill going down. Actually, Sylvester will be removed. The IS-3s have been the duo to go through the middle of the map here. They could catch Still Mojo off guard, and actually is Stenley in trouble. But around the side, Mirage will be able to support, so Still Mojo should fall pretty quickly. Stenley needs to land these shots and fast, because Stenley now has Thoris and YZNE coming in from the backside. Oh, this has gone terribly wrong for eSuba. Still Mojo is still alive, and this could fall apart very, very quickly. Fluky desperately trying to cover off Stenley there, who's left on nothing. Really down to 113. He's been taken down. Los Koskos can't really support, and now Fluky is left surrounded. Still Mojo is still standing. Eurofish, perfect cover, perfect fire, and gets the kill. Birgit on his own trying to get away, but Twixo, Mirage, and Los Koskos had nowhere to go in that one. They tried to make a move, and it fell to pieces.
They tried to go forwards, and at the end of the day, it was a good move because TCM were in the wrong position, because Eurofish was a little bit out of position, but they just couldn't take down Still Mojo. His skill came into fruition, and he's still doing the work here. Next target, Los Koskos.
Los Koskos trying to go on the flank, did not expect Durs and YZNE to still be here. He's been decimated, and now just 3 alive. Birgit scampered away early on, trying to run, trying to hide, and actually, we have seen Twixo take down one, but now he's got Durs, Thoris, YZNE to worry about, and I don't think he can do much here. 5 minutes left. I'm a little worried for these guys. Mirage on the flank though, trying to find Durs, trying to make this count, do what damage he can, but now his teammate Twixo is in trouble. Hunted down by YZNE. Mirage is going back and forth with these shots, and actually, Twixo could come out and support in this one. Thoris is being ignored. Twixo does the job, but Mirage is so low. What can he do? Twixo must land the shots. Tracked to the side, Jewelfish comes in. Mirage, can you stay alive? And they take down Thoris, or is the damage done? Is it too late? There we go, one more removed. Mirage and Birgit, the last two alive here. I don't think they can do much here. Mirage is so low.
He's just going to get obliterated by the beautiful 122mm shell of Thoris, and DJ Red Deep's going to add insult to injury, and is going to be capping that, making the cold winter of Winter's Himmelsdorf even that little bit more colder and that little bit more warmer for TCM, wrapping up this series 3-0 in quite some style, and fending off a good push for an eSuba. They had the right idea, but
they tried it.
That execution was dire. Still Mojo should have gone down immediately. They had the wrong tanks. I think you had to push they pushed 2 IS-3s through the middle. They had to push
right.
2 5100s through the middle, so they could get that burst just all on Still Mojo. They could get those 5100s out of the way, and then come in from another direction once they had that tier 8 advantage. Just bad execution, bad thinking, but the right idea for eSuba.
Yeah, it did seem as though they were on the verge of something that could work out. I liked some of the initiative, trying to send one man round on the flank, round the back. They didn't keep information flowing though. You know, YZNE was still up on the table. He came around at the same time, and they took down the tank in mere seconds. It was a 3v1, and they never quite had those advantages throughout the map. So a little bit of, I don't know, shallow, insight towards the later stages there, but it's good to see them trying to make a move. That's what we need to be seeing from them. If they brought that out a little earlier on, maybe thought the strategy through a bit, they could have brought out a little more, but overall, TCM looking pretty good.
Looking fantastic, I think that's the word. As I said, strongest TCM we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, and that was the biggest thing we were looking towards, was how well they were going to play throughout. Were they going to get any better with these new additions? Would it be an issue with, communication falling apart, someone's ego, being a little bit bruised now, not being the leader anymore? There's a lot of issues that could have come into effect, but right now they seem to have worked them out and they're looking good. But still, not sure they felt a real at the moment. A couple of newer teams maybe could have given them a run for the money, but congratulations nevertheless, picking up the 3 important maps they needed to get another win under the belt. But that is not all for today, obviously. There are still one more game on the way. It's going to be Wusa up against Kazna Crew. Now, Kazna is one of the other teams we've been looking towards to see how well they've done with the changes from the start of the season, especially with Elian now at the helm on that team. Leaving Lemming Train now joined up with Denial Esports, I believe, because they weren't practicing enough. He wanted a team he could work with, really start shaping. And do you think Kazna Crew is the right team for him here?
Yeah, I think I was surprised, like everyone else, that Elian actually joined through Kazna Crew, but I think he's going to be in that team well. I think he's going to find his place, and he does look like he's going to make that team the team it should be. But looking at quickly Wusa's versus Denali Esports, which we saw the other day, not too impressive with the Wusa. Just based on that, I would say for a quick teaser, Kazna Crew are going to be able to stomp Wusa if they don't provide us with that ability they've shown us before.
See, Wusa are not a bad team. That's the thing. They're a great side, but lacking maybe a little of the confidence, execution, whatever it is, it's not been there. But that's after the break. And even before we come back, you guys are going to get to see Melly again, so you guys can get all those tweets getting ready, get those Facebook posts on the go, because we'll be back in 5, and Melly will be up next.